Hello everyone, in this video, I will show you some best Android dungeon crawler games in 2021. So without any further ado, let's start this video. The first game of this video is Meteorfall Krumits Tale. Battle the likes of sozzled barbarians and nuke-addled snotwolves to protect our glowing green world from the sweaty hands of the Uberlick. Krumits Tale involves the same core deck building mechanics as Meteorfall Journeys and the same cast of overly optimistic heroes, but expands the swipe mechanic into a dynamic grid-based system. This means more depth and longevity. Our heroes will have to choose perks to complement their deck building strategy and carefully manage the board if they wish to triumph. Next up we have Redungeon. Redungeon doesn't bother with a storyline or general reason as to why you're trapped in this endless dungeon. This is purely about survival. Your knight can move forward either through a virtual set of buttons or by swiping to move him around. At the same time, you have to be both cautious yet forever moving. Dawdle for too long and the screen catches you, with some kind of weird creatures killing you. That's almost akin to an endless runner, but Redungeon is mostly all about exploring those dungeons rather than too much speed. Next up we have Card Crawl. Card Crawl is a solitaire-style dungeon crawler game played with a modified deck of standard cards. Clear the dungeon of 54 cards by using item cards, slaying monsters and managing your limited inventory. On each run, you can use 5 ability cards, mini deck building, to gain unique skills. By collecting gold, you can unlock 35 more ability cards to access new tactics and even higher scores. Next up we have Caves. Caves is a famous roguelike dungeon crawler for mobile devices. It follows the definition quite closely. Players must travel through dungeons created at random, obtain various loot and equip, kill hordes of nasty dudes, and more. The graphics are vintage in style, as are most, but the controls are solid, and the game is both enjoyable and challenging. A main base with a cloning station is also available to players. This one isn't easy, but it's also not too pricey. Next up we have Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a newer Rogovania-style game, and it's quite good. It features a large interconnected world, hence the Vania part, 2D platformer and action mechanics, non-linear progression, and more. Plus, you get hardware controller support, multiple software controller options, and an auto-hit mode if you want to focus more on exploration. The game is quite big, and the playable character is cool. Next up we have Endurance. Endurance is a roguelike dungeon crawler from the same developer of Ailment, Google Play a link. It's a top-down style shooter with tons of bad guys, plenty of stuff to collect, and a real storyline to play through. You explore the Endurance to figure out why everyone is going insane. It's the prequel to Ailment, and Ailment is another great game in this genre. You can really go with either one, but for maximum effect story-wise, you should try Ailment first. Next up we have Hoplite. Hoplite is another older and more popular dungeon crawler. It uses turn-based movement and attacking for a slightly more strategic gameplay experience. Otherwise, it's a classic roguelike title. There are randomly generated dungeons, leaderboards, Google Play Games achievements, simple controls, and plenty of difficulty. The base game has a little over 24 levels, but there are a ton of special missions and other such things to keep you busy. Next up we have Soda Dungeon 2. Soda Dungeon 2 is more of a roguelike than a dungeon crawler. Players enter Soda Dungeon and attempt to complete it. There are turn-based fighting mechanisms, a lot of loot to acquire, boss fights, and more in this game. On the surface, it appears to be a fairly normal dungeon crawling RPG, but it has several extra features to make it more enjoyable. When you're not playing, you may make money in the background, much like in an idle game. Next up we have Void Tyrant. Void Tyrant is one of the newer roguelike dungeon crawlers on the list. However, it's already one of the most popular. It merges the idea of card collecting with the standard roguelike experience. Players collect cards, build decks, and play cards to get out of trouble. There are 3 classes in the free version and 4 in the premium version. You pick your character, build your deck, and go on adventures. It's a bit more card collection than roguelike, but it's still a decent overall game. The last game of this video is Yet Another Pixel Dungeon. Yet Another Pixel Dungeon is about as classic of a roguelike as you can get on mobile. It's based on the original Pixel Dungeon and is one of many spin-offs in the Play Store. We like this one because it's in active development, added a bunch of extra stuff to do, and more options for the player. You get 4 classes to choose from, 4 difficulty levels, tons of loot and gear to collect, and even the environment can help or hinder you. So that's the list of 10 best Android dungeon crawler games to play in 2021. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel Games Geek and press the bell icon for more gaming videos.